Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show. Then I'm going to start with a question. When something bad happens to someone that you dislike, do you feel a little bit of glee inside, or maybe a lot of glee inside, or when the villain in your movie or your TV show sort of gets theirs, right, what's coming to them, do you internally cheer? Like, yay. Well, that is called Schadenfreude. So it's a German word, which means when we get joy from the suffering or misfortune of others. So I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, what is the opposite of Schadenfreude? There's got to be something that is the opposite, and that's exactly what I'm talking about in this episode of the Terri Cole Show, which is called Freudenfreude. I think I said it right? Freudenfreude. Yeah, I think that's how you say it. But anyway, that's not actually a word, but it is a word, an English word created from a German word where Freude means joy. So that's what I'm talking about. How can you in your life cultivate more joy for and with the success of other people in your life? And why it's good for you to do so. It's good for us as a community, but I'm going to hit all the things. So before we get moving, if you happen to be new to this YouTube channel, well, hello and welcome. Please drop a comment, introduce yourself. We are a friendly group, and do not forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified whenever I put out something new, which is every Tuesday and Thursday. The things that I put out are to help you elevate your joy, speaking of joy, and lessen your suffering in life. If you are new here, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss, which you can get at boundarybossbook.com. I also want to acknowledge and say thank you for all of your comments and all of your questions, and I love to highlight them. So today I'm highlighting a comment from Satu under the episode Boundary Scripts for Diffusing Arguments. And Satu says, so powerful and simple. Thank you for sharing this and these other tips on your channel. Terri, I appreciate you. Well, you know what, Satu? I appreciate you as well. So let's get into today's content. I was reading an article in the New York Times when I was looking up, because I was curious, what is the opposite of getting joy out of other people's misery, getting joy out of other people's success? So why do we sort of get joy from other people's misery? Well, think about it. It might be jealousy. It could be envy. So if someone has something you want, clients of mine who want to be married, let's say, I've had this many times over the past, or want to be in a fulfilling relationship, not even necessarily want to be married, but want to find their person and have been looking. And they end up having a lot of their friends starting to get engaged, and the feeling is not happy for the other person. The feeling is, why them and not me? So I would always say, hey, listen, this should be evidence and proof that people are still partnering out there in the world. And instead of why them and not me, perhaps you can flip that script in your mind to say, me next, right? See it as evidence that it's still possible to happen for you, as opposed to something good happening to someone else, feeling like something bad happening for you, right? Because it isn't that. And when we amplify the successes and the joys of others, we get those feelings too. Now listen, for some people, this is going to be not natural, right? If you're a natural empath, you probably already get joy from other people's success and joy in your life, because we naturally feel the feelings of what other people are feeling, right? So if they're feeling happy and successful, it's very contagious if you're an empath to be around someone who's feeling joy. It's unlikely we're going to be thinking about ourselves in that moment because we're already sort of feeling their feelings. But you can cultivate joy for other people's successes, even if you're not naturally an empath. Think about why. Before we get into what you can do, let's think about, why is it like this in the world? Well, I mean, to a degree, there's human nature that's involved. But if you look at reality television, I've always found it, and I still do. I'm not judging if you watch the Kardashians or whatever you judge, but it was always those shows that were like celebrating people's losses. It was this, you know, the Survivor type things. I remember Vic did an image for the New Yorker, like when Survivor first came out. And I've never seen the show once, but just together we were reading what the show was about. And I was like, oh my God, like what? It just struck me as so, maybe it's their survival instinct, but to me, it struck me as like the lowest human instinct, right? Wishing for the demise of the other people so that we can sort of win, but then having hundreds of millions, God knows how many people have watched the Survivor franchise over the friggin' 30, I don't even know, 20 something years that it's been around. That's not unique to Survivor, right? That is, think about these competition, the reality competition shows of like winning money or whatever, but so much of the time it's getting joy in someone's failure and someone not making it so that the other person can make it. But again, I just feel like that is, talk about flexing and building up that Schadenfreude, is that how you say it? Muscle. Let's not do that. And wishing for, looking for good news, wanting there to be good news, wanting the people in your life and people you don't even know to get what they want and being able to be happy. You have to be in a frame of mind that says there's enough. So I want you to be honest with yourself right now. When something good happens to someone else, do you have a tendency to either feel jealous immediately, envious immediately, think, why them and not me? I want that too. Is that where your mind naturally goes? Or does it go to, if it can happen for them, it can happen for me? Or maybe not everything has to be related to us. Maybe we can simply be happy for other people getting what they want in life. It doesn't cost us anything to create more Freudenfreude, which is the joy in other people's success. It's actually free. I mean, you think about the cost. There were studies done in college students, and basically the ones who leaned more towards getting joy out of the pain or failing of others, they tended to be more depressed than the group that naturally got more joy from other people's success or happiness. So my feeling is it isn't free to sort of revel in the pain or failure of someone else because you are still experiencing those feelings. Like it isn't free. It does something to you. When you think about being joyful for someone else's success or joy, what you're doing is amplifying that feeling. You're getting more joy by being excited about someone else's success. When you think about what is Schadenfreude, it's one way, from a psychological point of view, it's sort of one way of trying to cope with vulnerability, insecurity. It sort of protects us a little bit in our mind. Instead of feeling the sadness about the loss of that thing that maybe we don't have, whether it's somebody wants to be engaged and their friend gets engaged, and then their friend's engagement falls apart, and then they sort of feel happy about it. That doesn't get you any closer to what it is that you want. And it's not a kind way of going through the world, you know? So it's something, it behooves you to figure out how to be more happy for others. And if you're someone who's not naturally empathic, it's not sort of your way, you can actually learn how to be more. Because here's the beginning. This is how we're going to do this process of being more joyful for people's success and joy, is start with the people you really care about, your close friends, your partner, your family. Ask them specifically, what went great this week? Tell me about your wins this week. Again, this is not to bypass anything bad. This is a specific sort of exercise to start creating new neural pathways or ways of thinking about other people by asking questions, right? Tell me more about What went well, or what are you joyful about right now, or what made you smile this week? Because the more we celebrate with others, the more interested we are, the more people will tell us about the good and happy and joyful things in their lives. And who doesn't want that, right? Because when we feel happy for others, it's almost like this happiness becomes our own as well. We feel joyful for others. Our joyful feelings, that joy gets amplified within us. So there's something really beautiful about learning to do this more. So you can really just start by asking people, like, what's going right in your life right now? Or what are you happy about? Or what are you proud of? Because these are things that in regular daily conversations, I mean, unless you're a psychotherapist, you're probably not having these conversations. And there's this whole group of social scientists that I was reading about in the New York Times mag. And don't worry, I'll give you guys I will put it in the show notes if you want to read it yourself. But there's something that they talk about where it's creating a bragitude, it's called. And this involves expressing gratitude when someone else's success or support leads to your own. And I'm really big on this myself. I never, ever forget what people do for me. I never delude myself to think that I did it all on my own. I'm so grateful and vocal. Even if it's like the example they use in the article is that you're saving money because your friend recommended a great accountant. And going to your friend and saying, you know what? I actually have this amount of money in the bank, and I have to say, I'm so grateful that you referred me to your accountant because they've done an amazing job and they've inspired me to save this money. Like giving credit to other people, giving gratitude, being thankful for the ways that other people have supported you being successful is another way of flexing that feel-good muscle. And we want to do that. It also feels great to acknowledge other people, even if you're not used to doing it, because it's one of those things that the more you do it, the easier it gets, and the more you start looking for the ways that other people really are supporting us. Because remember, you guys, we have this negativity bias. You know, we remember the negative things in life 5 times more readily than the positive things. And so it's a bit of a effort, maybe a little bit of a heavy lift for us to remember the good things, to remember who did the nice thing. Because trust me, the bad thing that someone did to you, you don't have to work on remembering that because you're not going to forget that, because that is the way that we're wired, right? Think about it from a survival standpoint, right? Part of why we have this negativity bias is because you needed to remember where you almost died or what was painful, because that was how you were going to not go to that place again. And that is how you survive and live in the wild, right? So it kind of makes sense. You can ask simple questions. What's the best thing that happened to you this week? Just that. Because really, asking about other people's wins, you know, as they say in the article, it turns you into a joy spectator, so to speak. And it's so much better than being a disaster spectator, right? But think about it. What do you watch on TV? How do you react when something bad happens to other people? And listen, all of us will experience this Freudenfreude because it's a part of the human condition too. You don't like someone, a political somebody, and they get beat, something bad happens to them. There's a part of you that's really happy that that happened. But in our real life, in our close life, in our real relationships, we really want to avoid that, because it's not just bad form, let's say, but it's actually bad for us. And there's something so positive that we can be doing in our life by celebrating the big and small wins, successes, joys of the people in our life. In the end, it actually, what do they say? Rising tides lifts all boats. That's saying, where if that person wins, we all win. If you feel that way, and if you feel like that person winning means you lose, then that's the way you go through life with this. It's such an amplified experience of separateness, where by building this Freudenfreude, I think, this muscle. It's such a more humanitarian way of being in the world, because from an abundant point of view, something good happening to you can also be something good happening to me, because I can feel the joy of that. That's amazing. It's evidence that good things are happening in the world, as opposed to a lot of people have the experience that something good happening to you is something bad happening to me. So I'm really curious about your experience of this. Are you willing to give it a try, to start really celebrating in the joys and the wins and the successes of the people in your life? Drop me comments in all the places. Let me know on Instagram, because that's where I am most of the time. I created a little downloadable cheat sheet thing for you. Go to terricole.com/guide to just get a couple of questions that you can readily ask the people in your life. I hope that this episode added more joy to your life, not less joy to your life. And as always, take care of you.